Evolution and Darwin. The founding father of human biology, and the great scientist Louis Pasteur, confirmed the theory that life can only arise from life. This means that the ancestors of living organisms were also living beings. This completely contradicts the hypothesis put forth by proponents of evolution, which claims that inorganic matter becomes organic matter, and organic matter becomes life. The term hypothesis refers to an unproven theory. Once a hypothesis is proven true, it transforms into science. Fossils are perhaps the most significant evidence for evolution. Unfortunately, there is a fundamental absence of fossils that directly support the process of evolution. Fossils can also be considered a type of mineral. Since they are minerals, they exhibit characteristics related to mineral formation. Human beings have extensively explored all mineral deposits, resulting in vast collections of fossil specimens. However, there is a complete lack of evidence supporting the theory of evolution. Evolutionists argue that the formation of fossils is purely accidental. The absence of fossils does not necessarily mean the absence of facts. While this argument seems reasonable, the lack of evidence prevents the hypothesis from becoming scientific truth. So, what exactly are fossils? Let's consider the process of fossilization for human skeletal remains. When a person dies, their body is suddenly buried. Over millions of years, under the influence of high temperatures and pressures, the organic material in bones is gradually replaced by external inorganic substances, resulting in fossilized bones. These are collectively referred to as fossils. Given the absence of evidence, the authenticity of the theory of evolution remains an unsolved mystery. Unfortunately, the scientific community is not immune to politics. In the pursuit of political correctness, certain factions within academia intentionally suppress genuine scientific research while promoting a wave of deification movements. They elevate unverified and even contradictory hypotheses to the status of divine truth, thus fostering outright pseudoscience. Interestingly, even before Darwin, many individuals explored the concept of evolution. However, it was Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species that struck gold and became the chosen work for the deification movement. Throughout the book, Darwin primarily discusses interspecies evolution, which is unrelated to the origin of life. Only in the closing remarks does he suggest that the original origin of species should be attributed to supernatural forces. The origin of species emphasizes the self-mutation of organisms to adapt to the environment. To understand it vividly, for example, a certain biological population, 1. Migrate to cooler areas. To adapt to the colder climate, the fur thickens and the hair becomes longer. 2. Migrate to hotter areas. To adapt to the hotter climate, the fur becomes thinner and the hair becomes shorter. Darwin's theory of evolution is the evolution of a species and does not involve cross-species variation. The theory of evolution developed by later generations believes that 1. All living things change from inorganic matter to organic matter, and organic matter becomes life. Therefore, the theory of later evolution cannot be applied to Darwin. 2. All living things are derived from the mutation of one original organism. From the most intuitive and simple understanding of human beings, it is obviously difficult to accept the argument that inorganic matter becomes organic matter, and organic matter becomes life, because it lacks logical connection. The common recognition among academic circles that Cambrian period was a biological explosion scientifically denies the argument that all living things are derived from a single primitive organism. This makes the existence of the theory of evolution difficult and highly questionable. Looking at Darwin's life, apart from his medical and theological qualifications, he only had sailing travels and writing books, and there was no academic research activity at all. Therefore, Darwin's label should be defined as a naturalist, rather than a scientist, biologist, founder of biology. Those false titles that are not worthy of the name were all imposed on Darwin by later generations during the God-making movement. Darwin knew very well the truth that it's always too cold to be at a high place, and he would certainly not have accepted it. Because of him, 1. Clearly aware of the flaws in his own doctrine. For example, eyes do not conform to the theory of evolution. 2. Later, Darwin regretted the theory he published and called his theory the Devil's Bible. 3. In his later years, Darwin devoted himself to religious beliefs, but this point has been resolutely avoided by the God creation movement and never mentioned at all. The book The Origin of Species was later further developed and revised by others and became a complete academic system, collectively known as evolution. Therefore, the origin of species is not equal to theory of evolution, and theory of evolution is not equal to the origin of species. This is because On the Origin of Species is a book published by Darwin. The theory of evolution is a theoretical system created by many people. For this distinction, later generations often used Darwin's theory of evolution to distinguish the later evolved theory of evolution. The book The Origin of Species does not talk about the origin of species throughout the book, but only talks about the evolution of species. In literature, this is called the article is not on topic. To use the current internet terminology to describe it, it is clickbait party. The so-called title party is to make up a sensational headline to attract attention, so as to achieve the purpose of gaining network traffic. For example, many online messages carry horrifying titles such as World War III has finally broken out, but their content contains no trace of the war at all. Moreover, many reports of tragic wars lack the endorsement of official media. An indisputable fact is that evolution of organisms within their species does occur, but it is not an eternal truth. Even in his book The Origin of Species, Darwin also emphasized that the functions of the eyes, such as the natural adjustment of focal length, color temperature, etc., do not conform to the theory of evolution. Moreover, the theory of evolution of natural selection and survival of the fittest is not suitable for human beings. Except for the advantage of a developed brain, human beings are at a disadvantage in all other aspects. Comparing lower-level animals of the same size, humans. 1. The smallest strength, not as powerful as a gorilla. 2. The slowest, the wild boar that cannot run. 3. Can't fly, worse than a small bird. In addition, human skin is delicate and lacks hair. If the weather is hot or cold, disaster will be imminent. The process of human development, in fact, is not only no evolution, but degeneration. Then, according to the principle of survival of the fittest, humans should have become extinct long ago. Some scholars believe that the political correctness of the God-making movement and the rigid worship of hypotheses as science have not only destroyed the independence and sanctity of science, but also become a very disgraceful black history of mankind that is, outside of religion. And while being anti-religious, he created another brand new religion. The name Ape Man Cult is most appropriate. Chinese people often say, if you repeat a lie 1,000 times, it will become the truth. Indeed, what many of the older generation have learned from primary school textbooks and been brainwashed by society is the fundamentalism of the ape-human religion of apes turning into humans. It is full of Zucudian ape men and Shandingdong ape men. Not to mention the ultimate authenticity of this sect, at least at the stage where there is no evidence, it should be emphasized. So far, this is still just a hypothesis, not science. Unfortunately, this great scientific deception has caused so far, there are still a large number of followers of the ape cult. Some scientific literature suggests that there are 14 known species of great apes. Their natural attributes are stronger than humans. However, the great apes have long since become extinct. Humanity miraculously survived. This itself violates the theory of evolution and survival of the fittest. Then, the above-mentioned Zucudian and Shandong cave ape men are probably nothing more than great apes at best. Today's elite scholars definitely no longer have any ape-man believers. Even if you don't believe in religion, you will agree that the end point of science is theology, because there is no other explanation. Furthermore, admitting the doctrine of creation is not the same as believing in religion, because the theory of creation is a staged scientific understanding without evidence. But religion is not supported by evidence, but by miraculous witnesses. For example, in Christianity, Jesus ascended to heaven after Easter, according to records. As many as 7,000 people traveled across mountains and rivers in the wilderness that year, voluntarily coming to see the wonders of the world. It was precisely because of their collective testimony that later generations dared to believe in this miracle. To create the God Darwin would inevitably suppress Pasteur. Then, Pasteur's theory will be sealed for a long time. This is a great loss to the scientific community. It is also a major loss in the process of human civilization. After Pasteur, many elite scholars devoted themselves to genetic research. So far, the academic circles generally agree that 1. Human beings have the same maternal grandmother. As for whether she is the Eve in the Bible, it is another matter. 2. Humans originated in northern Africa. Of course, this is just a concept. I secretly thought that this might be a deliberate attempt to avoid endorsing the Bible. Because the two river basins at 30 degrees north latitude are rich in water and grass and shaded by trees, they are more suitable for the survival of primary humans. The vast expanse of desert in North Africa is simply a restricted area for humans. Anyway, the genetic information provided by genes does not include time and geographical information. Regarding the origin of human beings, both evolution and creation theories are very embarrassed due to the lack of scientific evidence. Then, 1. Evolutionists boldly propose hypotheses and then claim that sooner or later they will find evidence. 2. Creationism refutes its own correctness by denying the hypothesis of evolution. Today's scientific development is increasingly detrimental to the theory of evolution, hence the view that the end point of science is theology. It is worth pondering that, like the great scientist Newton, Darwin also devoted himself to religion in his later years. Ignoring this, the jigsaw puzzle of great men is incomplete. It is precisely the choice of the elderly that is often the most mature, rational, and objective choice for human beings. For example, the tragic wars currently going on in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Many young people are concerned about the battlefield, enthusiastic, cheering, and running around shouting, "Swear to cry out for the truth." As for the elderly, most of them appeal like Pope Francis, "My dear children, I beg you, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight." Indeed, the Pope has spoken out the aspirations of the majority of elderly people. Unless politically kidnapped, it is extremely difficult to find bloodthirsty militants who are keen on war. Back to business. All in all, even if the knowledgeable people in today's society are not religious believers, there will no longer be believers in pseudoscience. And to do justice to Darwin and apologize for the past distortion and use of Darwin should also be the way of a gentleman in the academic world.